Okay, welcome everyone. This is Legal Insights, DEI for Real. Real is we're going to reassure you, educate you, activate you, and give you some leadership tips. So welcome, welcome. I am Chris Jones, co-founder and owner of Spectra Diversity. We have the only statistically validated DEI assessment that measures both the individual and the organization at the same time. My partner in crime, actually not crime because she's an attorney, is Nancy Schick. Go ahead,
Partner in
Nancy.
fighting crime.
Okay. So go ahead and introduce yourself, Nancy.
So I'm Nancy Schick. I'm the founder of Third Ear Conflict Resolution. I'm a New York State employment attorney and global workplace mediator. So my entire goal at this point in my career is to keep people out of court where they waste a lot of time, money, and energy. So that is the primary reason that I do these webinars, I do outreach, do training and development, but also, of course, am providing the various legal and mediation services to help people do that.
And Nancy and I met through LinkedIn when I was in New York City, doing my semi-regular Broadway deal. We hooked up, we had coffee, we decided we could be friends. And then we decided we could work together on this effort. So I kind of cover the DEI side of it, and Nancy covers the legal side of it, although I have a legal background. I was a legal blogger, and Nancy has a DEI background because it's of interest to her. Is that kind
Yeah,
of?
and I actually did work at Queens College in the compliance and diversity office. So I definitely had a lot of hands-on in higher education. And really, if you look back to my HR career before I became a lawyer, we were doing what we now know as DEI, but we didn't call it that. And that informs some of the conversation we'll have today.
Okay. So our topic today, DEI for real, our reassurance piece. This one is interactive. Do you or your organization include DEI concepts in your mission statement? So do the little icon thingy there. And I'm going to do it too because I can. And there we go. Open in Chrome and go ahead. People, Nancy, if you can do yours.
Yeah, it's taking me a minute to connect, but I got it.
Oh, there it is. All right. Okay, I did mine. That's me. We proudly include DEI in our mission statement.
And yeah, me so far, but I'm sure other people are still getting in, and it's fine.
Okay,
We're not
well,
here to judge. We're here to just
no, we're
invite you to
not. We're
participate.
not. Okay, moving on. Now this is, and I want this to be interactive. We always try and do that. So raise your hand or put a question in the chat if you got it. So I went to a site and I went searching and how to create a mission statement. And I found a handy little guide. And this is what it says to do. It says start with an organizational assessment. I did not plant that idea. That was somebody else. And I think where it's helpful is that when you do an assessment, you know what your strengths are, but you also know where you have some opportunities for improvement, and you can use that to inform your creation of your mission statement. Here we go. Involve stakeholders. And so that is internal and external. So you want to make sure that it is resonates with all measures of the organization. Be authentic, avoid generic or hollow cliches. Authenticity is key. Set realistic goal expectations. Now, if you're a really big organization, you can say, we want to be the world domination leader of X. But if you're a smaller organization, maybe we want to be the best blah, blah, blah in Minnesota. And to do that, we will XYZ. So, keep it realistic. The next one is concrete action plans. So your mission statement should be able to tie to specific things that you can do, not, world peace, unless you are, in fact, the United Nations. You might be looking for world peace, but, basically, have a concrete action plan. Accountability measures. And this goes back to the measurement that you did beforehand. If you do the measurement, then you can measure your progress when you repeat it. Link to your mission and values. This is a lot of times the values are in the mission statement. We've got some mission statement examples, and you'll see where sometimes the values are in the mission statement. Sometimes they're separate. That's kind of up to you and your organization, but they should be tied together. Communicate internally and externally. So externally is if you, it could be shareholders, stockholders, it could be your advisory board, it could be your partners, whoever is your external, and obviously everybody that is internal. And then you can do some educational initiatives, which a lot of times is, well, in this case, it would be education about this is our mission statement, because a lot of people don't know what their mission statement actually is, and then review it regularly and give updates. So anything to add here, Nancy, or insights, comments?
I think one of the things that came to me when you were talking about the realistic goals is even narrowing it to a certain geographical area that might seem a little more realistic. I think most of us know this when you're laying out your mission statement. If it's too vague, and we're going to talk about that a lot, especially in the DEI context, it's hard to take action. So even when you're narrowing it to be the best, for example, in your state, you have to then define what best means in your view, in your organization. Or is it that you want to be recognized as the best, right? Do you want to win awards? That's different from, do we want our employees to think we're the best? So
Exactly.
that's part of what we'll talk about today, is how those aspirational goals for organizations were not very actionable, including when it came to DEI. And even though this is not necessarily the way any of us wanted to revise what we were doing and be under such heavy scrutiny, it can be an opportunity for us to reform what we were trying to do and execute in a different way so that we are getting the results. And as you've often said on our webinars, solve the right problems in our organizations where we have the power to do something.
Okay, good. Thank you. Um, so, so the reality since the election, and actually since 2020, maybe, some mission statements have been heavily edited, and there's been some deletions. I talked to someone, and unfortunately I can't share exactly what was said, but her organization used to have wording in their proposals, in their RFPs that they were getting, and then also the ones that they were responding to. And it used to have DEI language in there, and it's been stripped. It's just totally out. Although they still have a chief diversity officer, they haven't gotten rid of that position, but in their public facing view, because they do get federal funding, they've just eliminated it. So deletions is a big one. And here's the meat of our talk today. The same article that had the different ways to create a mission statement, that was written in 2023. Since then, these are the mission statements that they had in 2023. I looked them up and have their new ones. So this first one, and we've got 8 examples rather than 10. And if we don't have time, we might stop at 6, but I've got 8 here. So Spotify is the first one. What's good about it is that it emphasizes inclusion in part of their thing. It goes beyond mere diversity by actively encouraging employees to create an inclusive environment. So, and it also talks, I like listening and learning as well. So that was their old one. Here is their new one. Our mission is to unlock the potential of human creativity by giving 1 million creative artists the opportunity to live off their art and billions of fans the opportunity to enjoy and be inspired by it. I'm not seeing anything about inclusion in there, which is the key part of DEI is the inclusion. If you don't have the inclusion, you're not going to get the diversity. So inclusion is the leading indicator, diversity is the lagging indicator. And Nancy, you had something to say about this one.
Yeah, I did. And look, at the risk of calling attention to Spotify for the wrong reasons. I I actually think the changes are a little bit more actionable. I loved the as many of these mission statements, the aspirational parts of them were wonderful, right? They touched us at the heart level. And I love that about it. But then at the end of the day, it didn't really give us a lot to act on. So it basically says, here's what we think, but I don't really know what to do with the original, right, with the original mission statement. Now I'm seeing, okay, here's a number. And even though it doesn't specifically say diversity or inclusion, it's implied. There's no way you're going to reach 1 million creative people without it being diverse and inclusive, right? So I actually like the way that they were able to basically give something actionable without making it, a red flag word in the mission statement. So I think this was very clever.
Okay. Next example is Salesforce. At Salesforce, our commitment to driving equality and greater business value does not waver. We're working with employees, partners, trailblazers, and customers to move closer to equality for all. And this has inclusion and diversity right in it, not only with their employees, but with their customers. So it's internal, external. Here is their revision. We build bridges between companies and customers. Ta-da! Short and sweet. Lack of specificity.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that, look, you can see in both of these statements, their prior one and their current one, there's not a lot of specificity. Again, the original one, okay, they're deriving equality. I want to know how, right? That's the other thing is like a lot of these mission statements, especially the ones that came out after George Floyd was murdered, were vague like this. It was like, oh, look at us. We're on the DEI bandwagon. We're great. We're woke, right? Yeah, come spend your money with us. We all know that's what they're saying, right? So rather than it being a marketing tool, I like that there's something here. Like if I were an employee at Salesforce, I could go, all right, I have an issue. Of course, I'm also trained mediator, so I can hear language there, hear opportunity in this particular statement of, okay, if there's a conflict and there's a division between companies and customers, I know that the mission here is to remove that, right, and build a bridge. So
Right.
it gives me something to say, how can I build a bridge here? And with the other
Remove an
statement,
obstacle.
I'm like, all right, move closer to equality for all. It sounds great, but how?
Right. Right. Okay, we have more. REI. At REI, we believe the outdoors is for all. While we have worked to build a more inclusive co-op and outdoor community, the reality today is that outdoor culture and the outdoor industry are still not welcoming to or representative of all people. And that one really, they kind of took ownership of their industry. And I have read reports about uh, the lack of particularly Black visitors to our national parks.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know why. Maybe somebody does, but anyway, that was it's a powerful assertion that the outdoors is for all. I like that. And then they did the open admission of where we are today. Now, this is their new one. At REI, we believe the outdoors is for everyone. That's kind of the same. We recognize that to drive the change we want to see in our industry and our society, we must start from within the co-op. As we work towards this commitment, we'll need to find different ways of working, create a sense of belonging for all employees, and actively listen and learn. Um, I don't know. I really like that one.
I definitely think it's an improvement. Um, and I see Lee made a comment in here about shouldn't a mission statement be what their purpose is, what they do, and how they do it, why the company exists. And I think REI touches on a lot of those elements. I like that about their mission statement. I almost would like to see the two of those together kind of merged and reworked, because in the original one they pointed to an issue that they could solve, but they were also kind of wussy about about stating what it is. Like you said, you have data. I would expect that from you, Chris. I would expect you to have some data. You have something, you have a problem that's been identified, and then something that you can do about it. And I think REI missed the boat there when they didn't bring those things specifically of, say, we recognize that this, this is not normally an environment that is inviting for certain people. Statistically speaking, I want to see that so that I know exactly what problem's being solved. This still sounds a little vague and aspirational to me. Not bad, right? It's good to have aspirations, but when it comes to acting on them, this is where I think a lot of them fail, because it's too aspirational. And if it's too big, we know this as well, right? From a psychological standpoint, when a problem is so big that it's way up here at the micro level, we don't know what to do with that information. We need to be identifying the problems in our industries, our organizations, the things that we have something we can do about. And I think this is a good start for REI. I'm a little biased. I'm a member of the co-op, but
Me
I
too. I
definitely.
think my member number is like 4.
Oh,
It's
wow.
like,
You've been in it
it's
a long time.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I love this about what they're trying to do. And I think
Hmm.
they've identified some key actions, but I'd like to see how this evolves as they do more listening and learning. How does that inform their bigger mission? And keeping that in mind is like, look, every organization has a mission statement when they start that maybe evolves, because things are always changing.
International Rescue Committee, and this one at IRC, our diverse clients, partners, and staff have the power, voice, and agency to shape programs and operations. Within the IRC, we actively work to end all forms of systemic discrimination and foster an inclusive working environment where everyone feels respected, heard, valued, and supported. Yeah, that one, I think it's good. Here is their revision. That's their 2023 version. Here's 2025. The mission of the IRC is to help people whose lives and livelihoods are shattered by conflict and disaster to survive, recover, and gain control over their future. The IRC focuses on providing high-impact, cost-effective solutions to assist individuals affected by crisis, including natural disasters and the climate crisis. So they do have pretty specific things in their mission statement. So I would call that good. What are your thoughts, Nancy, from a legal
I
perspective?
agree. I think again that I liked the original language. It was very aspirational, but difficult to implement. And what happens in that is, for example, when everyone feels respected, heard, valued, and supported, of course we want to strive for that. But we also have to remember that not everyone's going to feel that way, and it's not always your fault. It's not always a failure of management, right? It's there are a lot of different things in that if you're always bending, I think we know this at this stage in business, that we used to say the customer is always right. But no, sometimes the customer is lying and cheating, so you don't want to necessarily feed that either. So I think what they did is they took a pretty solid mission statement and they gave it more specificity and more actionability, right? And I like that about it. So
Okay,
Lee made a
me
comment
too.
too, so I'm just going to take a second to see what his um, yeah, I agree with you, Lee. So Lee says a mission statement that focuses almost solely on DEI seems blatantly performative for almost any company. And I would agree. I think that's
Yeah,
it, and that's what the statistics have shown is that even with these performative type DEI aspirational statements, they may have come from the right place, but they weren't actionable, so they didn't change anything. So I think this is an opportunity for us to drill down into the data and fix the problems that we can. And then what happens is we fix a problem over here, you fix one here. They start to come together in a greater society. Um, and Lee, yeah, I agree with you on that one too. I'd be curious to see all of these mission statements before and after George Floyd's murder and see how different.
yeah, these
But we're
were,
not
yeah,
going to do
they,
that. That's a different webinar.
that's a new one. But I did notice, because Spectra, we were in business before George Floyd and after George Floyd, and you know, I'm in the Minneapolis area, so it was a huge deal here in my state, but it was a huge deal everywhere. You know, it was worldwide. And my business went, you know, went way up.
Yeah.
And but some of the companies that we did assessments for, they didn't do anything with it. You know, they didn't change anything. They didn't. And when we did their follow-up assessments, actually some of them went down. And one of my consultants, or you know, the change partners, one of them said that he didn't necessarily see that as a bad thing because the people were now more educated, so they gave better, more accurate responses to the statements that are included in the assessment. So you know, it goes both ways, but I know some that all they did was training. They didn't change any procedures. They didn't change any hiring practices. They didn't change anything. They just did unconscious bias training and, you know, just they just did training. They just train, but they didn't change anything. So I've seen it go both ways, but
And you know that I have an opinion on, of course, I have opinion on a lot of things, but on training too, where you're only delivering knowledge and you're not helping people apply things, you're not reinforcing it in your workplace, and you're not resolving the inevitable conflicts when they come up. It's what I call the CAR method, right? KARR. And if you're not doing it that way, then you're not going to see a major change. You're not going to see a shift. It takes time. And what we saw with a lot of the training, it was just knowledge delivery. But come on, we have mandatory sexual harassment training in New York, and sexual harassment still happens. It's because we kind of know not to do it, but it still happens because there's there's not enough bystander intervention, there's not reinforcement, there's not resolving the problems when they arise, right? It's this more of a
And how
performative.
to, and how to be an ally.
Right, exactly. How to be an ally, all of those things. And that, that's the same thing when it comes to any type of discrimination. And, the other thing I wanted to jump in and say is that also recognize that what our goal here today is not necessarily to call out companies and have you cancel them because you don't like their mission statement. That's not what we're doing. And remembering this is a learning environment, what we're trying to do is show that this work is hard. And if you are not experiencing it as hard in your organization, there's a good chance you're not really doing it.
Yeah, I was the international president of a professional association, and we worked on our mission statement for a full year. That's how long it took. It took us a long time to, because the old one didn't work. We knew that it didn't work, but it took us a year to make a new one. With all kinds of input and feedback and revisions, and it's a big deal. So, all right. Next one's Lego. Really big in my life with two grandsons, age 4 and 2. Lego is for everyone, no matter where you come from, what you look like, how you identify. It's our mission to inspire and develop the builders of tomorrow. To succeed in this mission and help all children develop the skills that will help them fulfill their potential, we must continue to play our part in building a more inclusive and equitable world, starting with our own organization. I don't know, it doesn't feel performative to me, it feels real.
Yeah,
Here
I like
is
this
the
one.
revision. We strive to deliver values-driven results for the Lego group, that sounds like money, and our stakeholders, also money, cultivating an environment where everyone is enabled to succeed and grow together, inspired by the leadership playground. By celebrating differences through a culture of authenticity, inclusion, and energizing play, we get a unique sense of belonging. What do you think of that revision?
It's a little confusing. And, I get that they're saying stakeholder, not shareholder, but it does read a little like, especially when it's like Lego Group and it sounds like, we're just going to make a lot of money. Um, yeah, just making a lot of money is not going to change the world much. I'm a little disappointed in the shift here. Yeah, and Erica says sounds trendy, and I agree. And that's, I think both of them sounded a little trendy, but there may have been some heart in the right place in the first one. Um, and maybe it's still there. It just I in one way I admire them that they kept in some words that might get them flagged. And that tells me that maybe they are still trying. But
Well, they've got inclusion right in there, sense
right,
of belonging.
right.
Those are flagged phrases. And I
That's what
will
I mean. So
say,
they
as
let them in, which suggests that they're taking a firm stand that they're not going to change. But it feels a little unfinished for me still.
yeah, I will say from firsthand experience, spending many hours constructing Legos with my 4-year-old grandson, that there are women astronauts, there are Black nurses, they've got all the colors of the rainbow in their little heads that you could stick on any sort of a person, and that's how they play with them. They just go, this is a fireman, fire
Mhm,
person, firefighter. There we go.
mhm.
Um, and it's just not a big deal. it's just normal, which I
Yeah.
really like.
And I don't know if they have anything. So Lego, if you're watching, something else to consider though when you're thinking about diversity is these parts are often quite small and difficult for people with fine motor skill problems with fine motor skills. So I hope they're considering those kinds of things as well in their diversity and inclusion.
I was just thinking, yeah, they've got a whole nother set that's for, kids that for littler people.
Wonderful. So
And
anyway,
but I
don't
did
ask
not,
for my opinion. I will give it.
I know, and I did not see any wheelchairs. I
Right.
did not see a Lego person with a wheelchair, so they're missing that one. And a lot of times disability is the overlooked part of diversity. We
Yep.
we know that. Okay, Indeed, the future of work is equitable and inclusive. Indeed is working to, editorial. Indeed is working to close the opportunity gap by reducing bias and removing barriers for hundreds of millions of job seekers worldwide. So here's the revision. We help people get jobs. Indeed strives to put, well, what do you think? Resumes, this is all the to-do stuff. That's what they do. Every day we connect millions of people. Where inclusion is not only valued, but leveraged. I like that. While our backgrounds are broad, our talents are many, our best work happens when we're empowered to speak up. I like that. Channeling our unique. So what do you think of this one, Nancy?
Very actionable. It's specific, it's measurable, right? I like SMART goals. I'm sure they have a little bit more, detail on on their plans to implement this, but I thought this was a great example, and I'm glad that you found it.
Yeah, it was, well, that's their revision. So I think their change from 2023 to 2025, they obviously worked on it
Yeah, and you can
and
see the
it's good.
evolution,
Yeah,
right? That's the other thing is, you know, I want to stress that again, is it's okay where you are, right? You're here. And the fact that you're even in this conversation is wonderful. We appreciate you, but we're challenging you to think this stuff through because it is hard. And you will be evolving. And as you measure, right, Chris, you measure, you do the follow-up measurements, you see what's changing, you try to explain what's changing. It's all within the business mission statement, right? And this is where we get into all the values and all the tentacles that drive your business and your people. That's one of the things, like you can't have it without you're not going to have a very large business without diverse clients or customers.
no,
You're not
no,
going to have much without diverse employees, which means you have to look at equity and inclusion. They come together. There's just
that's the
not a
world.
right? That's the world. This is the way that it works.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
always worked this way. It's just some people maybe leverage things differently because of the way we connected before.
Adidas. There they've got diversity, equity, and inclusion right at the top. Level playing field. Everybody has an equal opportunity to achieve betterment. Is betterment a word? Maximize their leadership potential and unleash high performance. So it was right up front, right on top. And here's their revision. Through sport, we have the power to change lives. Guides the way we run our company, how we work with our partners, how we create our products, and how we engage with our consumers. We always strive to expand the boundaries of human possibility, to include and unite people in sport, and to create a more sustainable world. And if I remember correctly, Adidas had a portion of their website about the environment and their sustainability goals. They've got that in there somewhere. So what do you think about this change? They
I love
obviously took out the DEI portion,
again, they
or
took
not?
certain language, but you can hear in what they're doing that it's there still, right? And look, as also I'm a little biased here. I am a former athlete, or I guess an aging athlete at this point, and I agree with this. Like, one of the things that I love about sport is that you can have people from all backgrounds. That's the Olympics, right? And we can come together, and even though we're competing, we can still shake hands at the end of the day. We can still be human with each other. And so I think this is highly effective.
I love the Olympics. MasterCard, creating limitless possibilities for everyone. We're on a journey to create a workplace in a world where everyone has equal access to connect their greatest passions with their fullest potential. That starts with our people and how we lead with a sense of decency and inclusion. And to me, that decency, that is a different word for respect. And here's the revision. Through our vision, a world beyond cash, we're advancing global social sustainability, larger and more diverse group of engaged contributors and participants. Yep. Whether employees or corporate philanthropy, we are positively impacting the lives of people everywhere. Nancy, what do you think about this one?
I'm hesitant because my initial response is, all right, I'm just going to say it. I think overall it's a pretty good statement, but it does look, it needs to be. They benefit from a large portion of the population being in debt, right? That's what credit's about. And they just are going to naturally be diverse and inclusive because it makes them money. It's the equitable piece that I'm not seeing in it.
Right, right. I read a article the other day about finances and about people at the bottom with their finances and people at the top with their finances. And for the people at the bottom, it was like, okay, you need to get more credit in order to get a better credit score. But when you ask for credit and you get that hit, your credit goes down. And then if you don't use enough of your credit, your credit goes down. So then you use more of your credit to get your credit up. But, I mean, it's like you can't win, of
And if you
trying to,
pay off your
yeah,
credit, you get your
you
score
get
gets
dinged,
lower.
you
So
get dinged for it. Yeah, yeah.
if you pay
No,
off your debt, your score goes down. So it's a game. And so, like, I think all things considered with the industry they're in and the service that they provide, it's not bad.
okay. Right. I'm not going to do number 9 and 10 because I thought that would take long enough. So
Yeah, and
activate.
I see that there's some interest in having a Q&A portion, so we definitely
Oh,
want to
good,
do that.
good.
Yeah.
So dangerous phrases, obviously diversity, equity, inclusion. And you suggested you should say workers, employees, people, keep it neutral. And then in your comments, you wrote, if your dress code, for example, has different standards for men and women, it's probably unlawful. I know somebody where they had to redo their dress code. Yet it remains to be seen whether different restaurants based on sex will be challenged. My mom was in the hospital last weekend, and I was there, and every single bathroom was unisex.
Mhm.
There wasn't a men's and a women's. It was just a bathroom, which is what you have in a home. Everybody uses the bathroom. It's just the bathroom.
Right.
No, no big deal. But
You don't need
anything,
to see any of my parts to know whether I can go in there.
no, I don't want anyone looking at my parts.
Right.
I don't even want to look at my parts. Okay. Technology, and gets to what Doge and the Department of Justice has been doing, is using technology to scrub the world and find organizations, people, whatever, that are still practicing DEI. And so companies have had to change their words.
Yeah, and I can't emphasize it enough that there is still the requirement, even with oh, you're practicing DEI or promoting DEI, there is still the requirement of protecting your workers and anyone that comes on your premises. If you're a business that has a, a storefront, for example, where people are going to come on, you still have to protect people from discrimination. So how do you do that without having certain initiatives and certain training? That's part of why we're doing this series, is to help you answer those questions. You
Okay.
do still have to abide by the law, even though you might get targeted for how you're doing it. So it's really more about the how than the what.
And this last point is just to keep in mind that executive orders are not the law, but they do impact federal, anyone who gets works for the government. It affects, but it's not the law. We still have, Title VII and EEOC requirements and anything to add there, Nancy.
Nope, it's pretty
Oh,
much what I was saying is your requirements as an employer are the same. Your protections as an employee are arguably the same. I know that there are some things being challenged, but until we have decisions from the Supreme Court interpreting things, or we have new law being passed by Congress, your protections and your responsibilities are the same at the federal level. Now, the other thing I like to emphasize right now is that you may be thinking, because I've had people say this to me, is we don't have to worry about any of this anymore. You might be thinking that you don't have the same requirements or the same protections, but you also have to remember that it's based on the state where you're working as well.
oh,
So,
very
for
true.
example, New York has a lot of protections for employees that go above and beyond the federal protections, and those haven't changed.
Okay. Lead. So this is what should or could you do is the question. And if you're a consultant, this is how you can help your clients review policies for those hot button terms, collect data to identify actual inequities. And the story that I always tell here is one time, one of my change partners was called in to do race training. And she said, well, sure, I can do that, but let's measure first. And they actually, in the opinions that they got back, they didn't have a race problem. What they had was a generational problem. So had they not, so the actual inequities were the oldies and the youngies in their company were not getting along and not seeing the same benefits, not wanting the same procedures, because young people work differently than older people in a lot of
And
cases.
be careful with the thinking about that too, because we are seeing an increase in age discrimination claims. So that's another one of those categories, right, that we have to be thinking about is although the ADEA protects 40 and over in the workplace, if you're having those conversations where young people this, millennials that, Gen X this, and you're not looking at the individuals and the people that actually work for you, you're probably going to go down that road where you're going to unlawfully discriminate because you didn't actually collect the data.
And then align your policies with the business values. So if you're a consultant, you can help that. And changing the policies, practices, and procedures of a business is a very good way to make sustained change within an organization. So, and then here, I don't know how many people we have here today that are internal, but participate in the surveys, be on a committee, report violations, and ask for what you need to succeed in your role. Anything to add there?
I would say, and if you're not going to get what you need to succeed in your role, lots of places are hiring.
That's
I know
true.
that that sounds easier said than done, but it's definitely something to consider is that sometimes you're just in the wrong place. You're not compatible, just like any other relationship.
So Project 2025 Tracker, that's a website. 317 objectives have been met. 34 agencies are involved, and the overall progress in completing Project 2025 is at 47%. Inclusion Allies Coalition, really good group. Connections webinars, affordable. It does cost money, but it's affordable. I found this little list, 109 companies that support DEI 2025. It's a free resource, and I'll put this in the chat. And then Goods Unite Us. I use that one all the time to make the few pennies that I spend, I want them to go towards organizations that support the values that I support. So and it's free. It's an app.
Yeah.
I use it on
And
my
the
phone,
economic-
but it's also a website.
Right. Yeah. And to your point, the economic blackout that we had earlier this year, they said it's going to take at least 2 quarters, right, to make a difference for organizations. So keep that in mind, that this is a long game to be played. And it's something that I'm a big proponent of as a small business myself, is that, look, we need large corporations, we need large law firms, we need large organizations for certain things, but don't be afraid to lift up the small ones, because they're often more engaged in your community, and they'll be more willing to probably return the favor and collaborate with you. So don't be afraid to look for the small organizations that might be providing the services and products you need.
Okay. So this is, we're hoping that you will submit your mission statement for a group reaction. If you want to copy and paste it, I am going to stop the recording. If I can find the button so that you don't have to worry about it being shared. Stop recording.